welcome back to the Altar of Stars. This is the week ahead reading for the week of June 28th, 2026. There's so much that I want to get into this week, and that's why I'm releasing this episode a few days early, because a lot of what is happening is firstly really big and really monumental, and secondly, it's happening like on Monday. So I'm releasing this a couple days early in the hopes that some of you will listen in time to prepare for the full moon and everything else that is folded into Moon Day, which is the beginning of some of these domino effect shifts in the astrology, another changing of the guard, as it were, with some new planetary ingresses that impact the collective body, the collective soul in pretty monumental ways. So I feel, there's so much on my heart to get into, but before we get there, I just want to give a final, this is the last time you'll hear about it from me. I promise. I swear to you. If there's any lingering friends out there that have been towing the threshold into the shadow months, that are curious about live mentorship with me and the crew that has constellated around this altar, it's such an incredible group of people. Really, I feel the gift of this community already that's coming together. And so I extended early bird, basically doors, because I'm going to close the doors after this to honor the group coherence, but until the full moon. So basically through the end of June. We have a few days left if you're listening to this on the earlier end of its release. So let me know. Obviously, you can find the links in the usual place, but if you have questions, reach out. If you're like, I don't know if this is right for me, then it's probably right for you, and I would love to find a way to make it work for people that are interested in joining this circle of communal wisdom. So I'll leave it at that. You know the spiel, you know where to find all the things. Let's get into it. So, I want to talk about the full axis of Cancer and Capricorn, because on Monday, June 29th, we have a full moon in Capricorn that's kind of kicking off the season, as it were. And I love, as you are likely aware, I love the Cancer-Capricorn axis. I feel personally that the ancestors can be found in the entirety of the wheel. There's no place where they do not exist. It's all lineage, it's all remembrance, but there's something very poignant about the Cancer-Capricorn axis that actually centers their presence, that says, look at this. Look at the precious gift of this life you've been given and all of the chances for someone to exist, the probability of a single sperm actually coming into being, actually a soul becoming incarnate. The probability of that is so slim, and yet here you are. The dream of the ancestors that came before you, and the future prayer of the ones that will come and inherit the world from you. There's an imminence, there's a commanding presence of the responsibility and the gift of lineage, of life, and of course the hardship. In some ways it's funny, but it's true. It's like, in some ways we didn't choose this life, it chose us. And so what do we make of that? Some of us were born into exceptionally challenging circumstances. Some of us are still living that right now. I am not at all interested in romanticizing the reality of being, the reality of existing on lineage and being inextricably bound to its inheritances. It's rough. It's a full-time job working with the ancestors. Once you open that door, there's no closing it, because you turn towards the reality of this life. It's rough. The past few years that I've been doing ancestor work and just centering that as the hearth of my world, it's been life-changing in the most invaluable ways, the amount of support and resource it's offered me, the capacity it's given me to grow around my grief has been, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And also it has asked me again and again, and continues to every day, to turn towards the truth of the world that was handed to me when I was born. And that there's nothing romantic about that. To me, the Cancer Capricorn axis is a river that runs through our chart. It cuts through a whole axis of lineage in our astrological chart and shows us the reality of being handed a world. And all of the memory and gifts and also burdens that came with that, these bundles, as it were. So I share this because I want to talk a little bit about the full moon in Capricorn, and I also want to cut through the noise. There's so much wounding around this axis, as there is magic and beauty, and you can't hold one without the other. That's for damn sure. In my experience, the gifts of our lineage and this life that we've been given, whether or not we like it, whether or not we choose, the gifts that are available there require us to open those bundles of burdens that are also there. And not in a masochistic way, not in a self-punishing way, because that's likely what has gotten us to this point collectively, where there's so much unprocessed, unhealed energy at a collective lineage level, right? We are all part of one family, one generation right now. And if you cringe at hearing me say that, that's part of the forgetting. That is, I'm sorry to say it, but the function of isolation and not seeing one another as relatives, not seeing one another as family, is part of the mindset that breeds disconnection and lateral violence. And so for me too, there's this awareness right now, so poignantly, of the world that was handed to us when we were born, and the recognition of kinship as we look to our right and to our left at the many different peoples that we find ourselves surrounded by at this moment in time and history. The whole landscape of our collective reality has been reshaped by colonization. And so if we can't start to see the kinship and the relations in the eyes of everyone we look at, we are lost. And I feel that beyond, of course, the blood level inheritances of our ancestry, Cancer and Capricorn as this one axis also remind us of the reality of belonging to anything, belonging to one another, belonging to the land, belonging to ourselves and our own cultures and identities, starts with relationship. It's actually founded in relationship. There can be so much severing of belonging by trying to validate who and what we belong to through genealogical records or through these very colonial narratives. I'm thinking about a conversation I was having with a native friend the other day, Seneca friend, where there's so much justification for what makes you native enough, what makes you Irish enough, all these questions that I sit with every day. And the reality is, it is my relationships that create belonging to community, to land, to culture, to my ancestors, right? If I'm out of relationship with any of it, there's going to be a need to justify why I belong, rather than actually rest in the intrinsic nature of belonging because I know I'm related to you. I'm in relationship with you, right? It's a question that's been on my mind a lot, obviously. If any of you listened to my Chiron in Taurus recording last week, a lot of what I feel this energy is bringing are questions of relationship. And I'm sitting with the same question I think I will be for the next 7 years and lifetimes, is like, at what point have I fallen out of relationship? Because the function of a colonial mindset is to isolate, is to convince us of some myth of our separateness, of our individualism, because that makes it easier to have power over people when they feel alone, right? And so for me, so much of these teachings of Cancer and Capricorn, these teachings of also Chiron in a Venus-ruled place, right? So much of the sky right now is an invitation into belonging through repairing relationship and noticing when we are in or out of relationship. So without going on about that further, I'm thinking about it a lot because, as we know, I'm thinking about it in regards to the Capricorn full moon, because as we know, anything can have, especially in astrology, the zodiac signs, the planets, any of them can have a shadow side. And I think sometimes, myself included, there tends to be a romanticizing of Cancer as though it's this place where we find a sublime level of care and safety and belonging and kinship, right? And these ethics of collective care. Oh my, what a utopia that sounds like. And in reality, this energy of Cancer can also manifest as how we've seen it over the past year specifically, with Jupiter in Cancer, bringing the utmost energy to that territory that also can express as like hyper nationalist tendencies, where we actually, again, are not really in deep relationship, but we've convinced ourselves that we are, in service to some ideal or belief that is functioning from supremacy, a supremacist ideology, that certain forms of life are more important and thus more valuable and more worth protecting than others. That is, in my opinion, that right there, we've fallen out of relationship already, but there's enough of like a mimicry that it can convince itself that it's still in relationship with who it's chosen to be in relationship with the kinds of bodies or lives that it values, right? And so the true ethic of Cancer season in general, for me, is the restoration of circular models in our communities, in our relationship to time, in our relationship to identity. This one practice I will offer you. Oh, this is so real. Just in like how it's been sitting in my system lately. One practice I will offer for the Capricorn full moon is getting curious with how to introduce yourself from a lens of relationship, rather than me, myself, and I as the center of my own world, my own identity functioning in isolation, out of relationship. The invitation is, what's actually your positionality in the world by way of what and who you belong to, who and where you come from. The circular belonging. This is one of the, I'm not going to say it in Guelga because I'm not really there yet, but one of the first questions that folks often ask in Irish is, who do you belong to? Or where do you belong to? It's not like, what's your name and your, your kind of capitalist role in the culture. What do you do for work, right? Which is the very, in my opinion, very Western way of introducing ourselves. Our identity is tethered to what we do for work, which is just, it's all machinery, right? It's really, there's no relationship there. It's just productivity. It's defining our sense of personhood by how we uphold a capitalist reality, right? And so for me, the antidote to this, and one of the real medicines of Cancer and Capricorn as a larger tradition-based, lineage-based, circular model, that is the natural order. That is how every ecosystem functions. As a circular model, is what do you belong to? Your sense of selfhood being shaped by your relations. Your whole identity, your whole beinghood, born of those relationships. And so I'll put this in the kind of ritual for the Capricorn full moon. But I found this to be so reparative and so healing, because not only am I almost like identity mapping my relationships in this matrix, right, in this ecology of like, no, who do I belong to? What do I belong to? This is such an important antidote for our cultural hyper-individualism. And this to me is the reality of Cancer and Capricorn. It's not just traditional regimes that have been handed down, even though the traditions themselves are whack and in service to empire for the most part, right? That's in some ways it's too easy of an out. It's like, no, we don't stop there. Tradition isn't about taking the world that was handed to you when you were born and not questioning it. That's, in my opinion, the shadow of tradition. Tradition was developed by our ancestors who have walked this path in life before, because they're not behind us. They're ahead of us on the path. They've already been here. They've already done this. And yes, the world has changed. But tradition is literally a path set in stones before us that we get to walk down. But we are an ancestor ourselves. We're not meant to just walk those stones when they lead us to harmful places. Part of our responsibility as being ancestors is to pick up some of those stones and shift them, to move them to a path, an orientation, and a trajectory for the future that will lead us somewhere deeper into relationship, hopefully. That won't just perpetuate the same trodden path, right? And that's why I like to differentiate this, because when we think of tradition only as something that exists in the past, we end up just walking down the same pathways over and over again and digging a grave into them. That's where we're at right now collectively, in my opinion. But when we realize that tradition is a map that our ancestors left for us to navigate the future, but that we ourselves as ancestors also hold the responsibility to influence that path, to say, hey, thank y'all for getting me this far, but now I've reached an impasse where these ways are no longer a helpful compass. It's time that I pivot. And I'm shifting the trajectory of this path so that future generations can also find new ways. And we don't just keep perpetuating the same old stories. That is one of the shadows of Capricorn on the other side of the axis. It is being too set in tradition as a mythology of the past. Because tradition is a living ecology. It's something that is being shaped in every moment. We are the ones influencing it. And this is the thing that can be really tender about folks who are trying to reconnect to ancestry. I'm in it. I'm with you. I've been doing this for years, and the grief of the loss, the grief of the erasure. Like, there are things I will never really know as a culturally American person, especially, but also a child of diaspora, a grandchild. Like yesterday was when my people came to this place known as Turtle Island. And so there's grief of the loss of like, oh, I don't have a lot of the maps. And there's an empty space where the rituals and the songs and the life ways were meant to fill that space in me. They were meant to help me find my way. And so the courage to be an ancestor now myself and say, I didn't get any of those maps. I'm doing my best to find them, but some of them I never will. So I have to make it up as I go, as best as I can, being in good relationship with the resources and the people that I do have, the peoples where I live now as a transplant, right? My root system has been transplanted for the most part. And so this is the reality of our role as ancestors now, is not giving way to this mythologized past where our people's traditions are somewhere long ago. And so we have to just make do with the world that we inherited and not challenge and not actually try our hand in saying, okay, well, if our people's traditions and cultures were actually born of deep, intimate relationship with the land and belonging to place, why don't I try my best to belong to the place where I am now, to be in good relation with that place so that I can hopefully receive the wisdom of those relationships to start to rebuild our maps for the future. None of it is separate. It's all always been found through relationship. So that's my soapbox. But I've been, it's like I don't want to get on here and just and share the same old spiel about Cancer is the lunar ruled river of memory. All of those things are true, and those are the ways that I've historically connected to these energies. But right now, these systems are alive. Cancer and Capricorn is in its own right a living ecology. It's always communicating and changing and informing who and where we're headed. And so who we are, I should say, and where we're headed. And that's what's speaking to me the loudest about this full moon in Capricorn, about this axis. I'm thinking about especially the full moon. The moon is at detriment in Capricorn. It's not super happy here because its home territory is actually on the other side of the sky in Cancer. We'll have that Cancer new moon properly in a couple weeks. But for now, we have the sun in Cancer opposing a Capricorn full moon, ruled by Saturn at fall in Aries. There's edges here, there's friction here, there's agitation here that in my sense is meant to awaken us to the ferocity of courage that says, you know what? I'm done giving way to the story, really being victim to the story that all of it's lost. It's a right here, right now moment. You yourself as an ancestor, what are you going to do about it, my friend? It's the only choice we have. I don't mean to sound dramatic, but I do feel this is true. This is where we're at. And Saturn in Aries as the ruler of this lunation, to me, it is the fire on the hill. It's the one who is willing, who is courageous enough to trailblaze, to say, not like this. I refuse to go silent into this good night. I refuse to be one who succumbs to the darkness or to the occlusion of choice. Saturn in Aries lights the fire on the hill under this Capricorn full moon and calls in all of the powers that adore us, all of those relations that we're afforded by being in this body. If you think you don't have wise and well ancestors and big, powerful gods and deities and land spirits and other than human kin at your back, I'm sorry, you're mistaken. You believe a myth that the overculture has inundated us with since we were born, and that is no one's fault, except for, of course, the forces of forgetting. That's definitely at fault here, but our role then is to light the fire on the hill and to be one in our community, in our family, in our lineage that interrupts the forgetting. And the thing about Aries as the ruler of this lunation, as the fire starter, as the one who strikes a match in complete darkness, it is the potential for new life to burst forth from this moment. And I really feel in my bones, this is one thing that I never thought I'd find myself saying, but I feel it in my belly these days, that there is no mistaking. I feel it from my ancestors every time I'm at my altar. There is no mistaking the reality that we are the ones who inherited the world at this moment in time. Do you realize the responsibility of that and the gravity of that? That we're the ones who came into the lineage, the collective lineage at this moment? Like, I just see a line of everyone in this generation that is wakeful and ready to light the fire on the hill respectively for their own lineages and communities and families. It's like we had to throw in a warrior. It was the only one that was going to interrupt the trajectory of this, wherever it's taking us. We needed you. You were the dream of your people. You're the answered prayer. Like, send someone to earth right there, right then and now, right here and now, that is courageous enough to interrupt the momentum that has built in the recent generations, especially. The one to diverge from that momentum, to be the curse breaker, as it were. That's a huge mantle to take on, but it's also a huge gift. The amount of trust, like, this is what I want to say. I don't mean to be preachy. I hope that you can feel my heart in this. The amount of trust that our ancestors have in us, current, present tense, not had, have presently in us, to send us to the field right now. Try to take that in. Try to see yourself as that one, that baddie that they're like, this is the one. This is the sperm that we need to make sure incarnates on the planet right now, with that fiery soul to light the fire on the hill. I feel this so strongly. And we will be the ones that future generations call upon. That's my goal in this life, is to get the lineages well enough and get myself well enough where I can die and be a venerated ancestor for future generations to call upon. That's the only thing I really care about at all to make of this one life. And for me, that's relationship. None of this is for me. I'm not saying this to like flex. It's like, what is that like to consider? There's a lot of romanticizing in New Age culture about very deep traditions around the 7 generations responsibility. The impacts that this life, the choices you're making right now, will have on the 7 generations to come. And of course, the inheritances that you're living out from the 7 generations that came before you, monumental. If you really let the gravity of that into your system, it's not like a cute Instagram post anymore. It's your whole life right there. It's the whole of your responsibility to being wrapped in that 7 generations philosophy and life way. What is it actually like in your system to be in such deep relationship with what and who you belong to, that everything you're doing right now in each moment is so that those that come inherit the world from us, my rabbit's here, that they will have what they needed. And that they will be able to pick up the path that we laid. They'll be able to follow those stones to the point that it serves them, and have the courage to call upon us to ask, okay, now how do we do this differently? That's what we need more than ever, in my opinion. So soapbox over, but that's Cancer Capricorn. That's the Capricorn full moon. 8 degrees of Capricorn. The 2 of Pentacles is the corresponding tarot card of this decan, where the full moon is occurring. And it's a Jupiter-ruled decan. And you know what? The full moon itself is on Monday, June 29th at 7:56 p.m. Eastern time. So a good evening full moon rise if you're on the east coast of Turtle Island. And this decan is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter will be at the very, very, very final degrees of Cancer. This is like literally the last few hours that Jupiter will be in Cancer for another 12 years. This is a prayer. This full moon is a prayer. I'm going to get over myself for how cringy that will sound, but I feel it like that is it. This full moon, all it asks of us is to hold the gravity of our relations, of what it means to actually belong to something bigger than us. And when you belong to something, when you're in relationship with something, you immediately have responsibility to that thing. To be in relationship is to have responsibility, to be in a sacred agreement with one another. And to belong to anything requires relationship. Belonging, relationship, responsibility, bound to one another. What do you belong to? Who are those relations? And what is your responsibility to them? This is it. So, if I had to suggest a ritual, and I'll post a ritual for this, but I'm really feeling it is in the claiming, it is in the introduction, the acknowledgement of who you are as defined, as shaped by, and born of your relationships. Because then that opens us into a lived, embodied experience of belonging to them. And then it can bring this question further of then what is our responsibility to those relationships, to this life that I've been given and all I've been afforded by both human and non-human relationships. That's the real interesting edge, is if you can see all you've been afforded by the land, by your community, by your ancestors, by all of these beings that you can easily conceptualize. And then I have to throw this in there because I'm me. My 12th house is like, also consider all of the beings that you do not know their names, you do not know their form or function, but you can feel them with you. In moments where you have miraculously made it through the hardest experiences of your life, you're still here. And I doubt that was only just you. Give yourself credit where credit's due, but also remember we're not in this alone. So that's my point. I think it's been made.